All right, this is the 16th day of my fast. So today's, I'm doing a talk every day. It's easy for me to keep track of time that way. Yeah, this is the 22nd of July, and this is the 16th day of my fast. And I don't know why it is, I've been like going to sleep and then like waking up like at 3 o'clock in the morning, and then I don't know. I might do something. Something's gonna make me like try not to really wake up because I really want to go back to sleep. I do. I might watch something on TV or something, YouTube. I've been watching Bob Dylan shows. He's just been bringing up different like documentaries, about Bob Dylan's career in poetry and music and all. I don't know what's on right now. See, it pauses. It pauses, and I did last night. About 3 o'clock in the morning. I decided to drink a beer. I still have some left, a little bit in here, to wet my whistle. But, I had this dream. I was waking up just a little bit ago. It was like 11:30 in the morning, almost high noon. Might be high noon when I finish this. High noon comes through cowboy days. They used to call it high noon. In fact, I think that's when they used to have their gunfight when they took somebody wanted to challenge somebody else. And then they stood back to back, took 40 paces or 20 paces or whatever it was, 20 steps or something. I think it was more like 20. They're like 40 apart. and then turn around, and then they both at the same time, like, pull their guns out of their holsters and shoot at each other until somebody's dead. Somebody's gonna die. Well, they used to do that at high noon. I think it's called a draw. That was back in the cowboy days. But I'm gonna read this book, Me and Dog, because if you notice, dog, if you spell it backward, is God. I don't think that's by chance. It could be, but it sure is an awful blatant synchronicity, in my opinion. And so, but when I was sleeping, I had this dream. I was waking up from this dream there, Look, I have to try to be clinical here because I don't want to say anything that would be inappropriate. It was really kind of strange, and it made me think about things that I haven't thought about in a long time. Okay, like for girls, in my understanding, because I never actually like seen this or anything, but on their vagina they have what's called a hymen, and that's a skin, and that is supposed to be like, I think it's like it's a skin that breaks when you have intercourse, like with a man, for a girl with a man, and then that skin will break, and that's it. Then they're not a virgin no more. But girls, at a certain age, just like at a certain age for the bar mitzvah, with the Jews, and certain age for, like, usually it is like around like, look, I'm pretty sure it's like 12 years old. That's when you're supposed to be an adult. All right, by the time you're 12 years old, that's when you enter your adulthood. Now that's not accepted truth across the board. But because they say that a child's mind and a girl's mind and a boy's mind develop at different rates also, okay? Like, it takes a boy's mind longer to fully develop than it does a girl's mind. And though a boy's mind isn't really even fully developed until like the time they're, I don't know, somewhere like around 20 or something, you know? And like that's past 18. And that's past 16. Like 12, 16, and 18, those are considered the big ages. And 21. In some places you can't buy alcohol until you're 21, for example. But they said you could go to war and kill people by the time you're 18. Okay? That just goes to show you the hypocrisy of the world that we live in the rubric of the United States of America. Alright? I'm not sure what it is in other countries. But I know in the killing fields, out in Vietnam, they had 12-year-old boys holding, automatic rifles ready to kill. Like guarding the, prisoner of war camps and stuff like that. But anyway, back to the medical stuff, So like a girl, when around the time she's like 12 or something, she goes to a doctor, it's called a gynecologist, and then they do the first like inspection, so she got to put her legs in these stirrups. Stirrups are like when you're riding a horse, and you put your feet in the stirrups, and then that's how you where you keep yourself secure, is below the saddle, and where your feet hang down around the belly of the horse, and you got stirrups. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. I think that's where stirrups, the name, comes from. But they got a girl has to lay on this table, put her feet up in these stirrups with her legs spread apart, and then they put a blanket over her midsection like that or something. I guess to make it feel like you're not so exposed or something. I don't know. It's a ritual. All right. They go to the doctor. I mean, man or woman. I'm still seeing the whole vaginal area exposed. I mean, I don't understand really what the blanket is for, unless in some way it eases the mind of the person feeling invaded, because it is like an invasion for a woman, a young woman, a girl. And anyway, I was just saying, I think the doctor breaks that hymen. I'm pretty sure. They have to in order to go in there, because then they go inside up the woman's vagina to with a scope, to like see everything and make sure everything looks the way it's supposed to look. So, I mean, that's what they do. So, and see, a woman has a cycle, all right, a menstrual cycle. So a woman bleeds every month, has something to do with the cycle of life for a new child, and that's the big thing for being a woman, is a woman bears a child. See, so the blood goes down to nourish the child and everything, like that. And there's a whole lot of stuff that I'm not an expert in or nothing like that, but I know what it is enough to know what it is. I mean, what it's like and everything, how it's true. All right, and so I know about it. And I mean, look, I spent a good amount of time working in a hospital, and plus, I just know from being with women. I mean, I got a few kids. Well, we're going to talk about one of my children in particular, because there's something significant about that. But first, I want to continue this dream. So, look, in my dream, I was, I was, I had to have every day or every night or something, at a certain time I had to go to the hospital. All right, and it was kind of like taking my car to a mechanic shop or something, right? Look, so I go to the hospital and I lay in this bed and I sleep. And actually, so it's kind of like what I'm doing. I mean, every night I go to sleep. And so it's like every night I go to the hospital, all right? There's a juxtaposition there. It's like a parallel process going on, all right? All right, one is like an analogy for the other or something, obviously, in my subconscious mind. All right, because I'm dreaming. And look, I'm going to the hospital, and look, I even cut off my sleeves right here. I mean, shirt right here, to make it look more like I'm not like this is like when I get out. This is not a nighttime event or something. This is like, no, I'm ready. I'm active for whatever. All right, but it had something to do with a woman because, okay, look, I mean, even though I don't have a vagina or anything, obviously, because I'm a guy, when in hospital, okay, well, something about, pull the string out of my ass, okay, and let some stuff out or something. I don't know. But this woman doctor has to go underneath the bed, like it's not like a bed, all right? Like it's actually like a workstation, all right? But I'm laying there, and she got to go underneath it like you'll go underneath a car, like if you're a mechanic, okay? And you got a little thing on wheels that you can slide under there easy if you're lucky enough. If you're not working like outside, like in the dirt or on the ground, and go on your back, Look, I've worked a lot underneath cars and stuff, my own self. I've got stuff in my eyes and everything, from dirt and everything falling. But the point is, if you got a garage with a cement floor and a roller bed that you can lay on and then just roll back on there, makes it a heck of a lot easier. But that's not always the case. Anyway, but this is a sanitary environment, all right, that I was in. And so I go there, to go to sleep. And then the doctor comes in at nighttime, all right, or the nurse, whoever it might be. In this case, it happened to be a woman, all right. And I seen the string, and they pull it out. And it's kind of like a string, like, okay, when women have their menstrual cycle going on, okay, then they bleed. So what they got to do is they either got to wear a pad, or they put what's called a Kotex up their vagina, and it swells up so all the blood don't go out. So they don't see, blood everywhere around their vagina, like, when they're out in public. It'd be embarrassing, There's certain things you got to do, and you got to wear a pad, or you got to put one of these things up into your vagina, and it has a string, and when you pull it out, then you pull it out, and then it soaks up the blood and it comes out, and then you dispose of it, and like that. And you do it at the toilet, in the woman's bathroom. And a lot of times they have, like in the hospitals, when I always go into the hospitals, either to work or if I have to go to the hospital, like in a bathroom that's both male and female, they'll have a machine in there for women for that purpose, because they know it's an important thing. And it's a certain part of our civilization, that we have developed a certain respect for. Kind of like opening the car for a woman, opening the door for a woman, is a certain respect. And also, this is also a certain respect, because, look, it might be kind of gross, but a woman has to take care of it, because that's a woman's job. She's a woman. Well, and the men got to give appreciation for that, a woman's job and everything, you know. I mean, if it wasn't for a woman, there wouldn't be any babies. You know, you know what I mean? So look, anyway, that was that, you know. I'm not saying like I'm like a woman or anything, or I have anything stuffed up my ass, but in my dream, this what, okay, so she goes under there. All right, so then it's time for me to wake up, and I'm waking up, you know. I'm getting off the table, all right, and she's coming out from underneath the bed, you know, underneath the table, like a mechanic, and she looks at me, and she turns her head turns her head like this, you know, like as to not look at me in the face or something, you know. And I said to her, "Don't be so dramatic. Yeah, your work ain't that hard." You know, it kind of disgusted me, you know, being so dramatic, like, you know, such a big deal. And you got to be under there doing that kind of work or something. Told her, quit being so dramatic. Anyway, well, you know, I woke up, you know, thinking about it. Like, I wonder what that was all about. Like, you know, kind of made me feel like maybe through my fast, hopefully, you know, maybe something has taken place, like when I go to sleep. Well, most all my talks have been coming from what appears to me in my dreams, because I don't really think about that much. Like when I'm like, I don't have that many ideas, like when I'm awake, like for an extended amount of time, which is not all that much because I've been sleeping a lot more since I haven't been eating. Yeah, like sleep is a good escape, and it makes time go by a lot easier. It's easier to sleep than it is to be awake and be hungry. But you know, my hunger pains kind of like went away, man. But sometimes I actually, when I think about eating now, it kind of makes me afraid, to tell you the truth. Like, I'm afraid that I might overdo it or something. Like, I'm really thinking hard, man. Like, when I do start eating again, like, how I'm going to approach the matter. Like, I'm not sure. Like, okay, I know I'm going to have to start slow, that's for sure. But, I don't know. I mean, look, not my first go around. Not my first time around the block. But when I was a kid, I was trying to learn how to run faster. I used to run around the block in Wisconsin, my block, without any shoes on in the winter when it's snow on the ground. Sometimes I couldn't make it all the way around the block. Yeah, my feet would be like, you know, red and like I had to stop and like put my hands on my feet and hold them with my hands and kind of like, you know, unfreeze them and then take off a little bit more. I put myself through suffering most of my life, even as a little kid, to make me run faster and stuff, you know. Yeah. So I didn't back away from pain. I'll endure the pain. No pain, no gain. So it's kind of a Stoic mindset. Back in the day, you know, they used to have a whole group of people called Stoics. That's where the term comes from. They were real men. And women. I think, you know, women too. But look, I'm a guy, so I mean, I mostly, you know, have my metaphors and stuff like that from, you know, being a guy. My mythologies and metaphors. You know, the hero, stuff like that. But, so anyway, you know, the dream was kind of like weird. Like, where did that thing come from? Is somebody actually doing some work on me when I'm sleeping? Maybe the angels, you know, or the spiritual beings or whatever, you know, the invisible forces or however, if there is such thing. and it very well could be. That's what they teach kids when they're little. They have angels. My mom told me I had a guardian angel. Because she believed in it. She believed the guardian angel protected me. Because, you know, a little boy, they're going to get into some stuff, man. Yeah. Figuring some things out, you know, about nature and life and the world and all that. I'm a little girl too, but I don't really know what it's like to be a little girl. I kind of got an idea. I watched them. I had a little girl, my daughter, Amber. But you know, okay, so anyway, that was that dream. It was kind of strange. And made me wake up though, you know, thinking about those medical procedures, like, you know, like what women go through, you know, when they're getting to be about 12 years old and they gotta go see a doctor, a gynecologist, special doctor just for women. And, you know, boys don't gotta do that, but they still gotta, you know, have their initiation or whatever by the time they're 12 years old. Around 12 is a big deal. Like, I remember when I was 12 years old. I'm hoping that I can't wait till I'm turned 16. I get my permit to drive legally. Like I used to, with one of my buddies, Wayne Maratz, I used to go with him. We used to drive from Merritt, Wisconsin to Green Bay, Wisconsin, in his dad's car. At nighttime, he would steal it. All right, he'd get the keys and we'd take off in it and we'd take a trip. Green Bay was like it seemed like it was about, like, you know, I don't know. I mean, somewhere around, like, I can't believe it was this far. It seems like 50 miles. I could be wrong, because I like, you know. Yeah, we did that a few times. We didn't have nowhere to go. He just trying to emulate, you know, what it is to be like an adult and drive. I mean, that's what we did. I mean, you know, he could hardly have his head over the steering wheel. We did it at, like, you know, like midnight, you know. His dad was sleeping. Well, anyway, his dad was a mechanic. He had his mechanic garage was his garage at his house. He lived right on the corner. The teacher told my mom, "Don't let me play with Wayne. He's a bad boy." He skipped school, stuff like that, you know. And plus, gets in trouble and gets kicked out of school for a while, things like that. I seen him one time after I came back to Wisconsin, you know. He had long blonde hair. I wish I could have remained friends with my early friends of childhood friends, you know, see how they turned out and everything. But yeah, I lost in touch with everybody. But my friends were all cool. I mean, you know, look, I even can still remember their names, like, you know, Wayne Maratz, Verhag, you know, he's the guy who called me a fat hideous, Mike Verhag, Mike Johnson, Mike Perkett. Mike Johnson and Mike Perkett, man, they turned into like big bodybuilder kind of people. Like, if I would have hung with them, you know, if I didn't get sent to my dad's house and stuff like that, you know. And then I never went back to Wisconsin, you know, after a certain point. And, you know, lost all touch with everybody, you know. Dan Maglish, another guy. Me, Dan Maglish, Mike Verhag, Mike Perkett. You know, we all hung together, man. Mike Johnson was the guy that I got into a fight with. I never even seen him before. He's in my music class, and we had to line up in line. He was behind me, and he pushed me. And I turned around and started wailing on him, man. Started pounding, bam, 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 all the way until I got him all the way back to the window. Yeah, and I don't let up, you know, because I'm full throttle. My gas tank was full of a lot of anger and stuff that I had learned from fighting the Rago gang, stuff like that. And anyway, Dan Maglis, he was cool. He was a skinny guy with red hair, red curly hair. He didn't have a dad, just like me, around. He lived with his mom and his brother. Anyway, so I had this dream. Made me think also about women, and then my own son Isaac, Coyote. I mean, he was born Isaac J.C. Wheeler. His mom's last name was Wheeler at that time. She had what's called Eaton-Lambert myasthenic syndrome or something like that, LEMS disease. Lambert-Eaton, myasthenia gravis, something like that. It's called LEMS. She'd never had a menstrual cycle because of medicine she was taking. So she never had to go through that. And she never could get pregnancy either. She didn't have a menstrual cycle, she never could get pregnant either. I mean, you can't get pregnant if you don't have the menstrual cycle. Because when you get pregnant, then that menstrual cycle is food for the baby somehow. I don't know exactly how, but it works that way. And, one valve turns off, another valve turns on, something like that. And she couldn't get pregnant, so didn't have to take any precautions or anything like that about getting pregnant because she couldn't get pregnant anyway. So she always wanted to have a baby. I know before I met her, she was doing something with her previous boyfriend about trying to have a baby or something like that, something, or adopting or something. I can't remember. There is something about it. I just don't remember all the details now. But she couldn't get pregnant. Well, that very last time I seen her, I already took a job after I decided I couldn't be a chaplain no more. And then I took a job at the military base in Fort Lee. A guy that I went to school with became a manager there, and he hired me. And anyway, then I started working in information technology at the military base there, on all the computers and stuff. And for a certain CASCOM, it was for CASCOM, and I don't remember what CASCOM actually stands for, but a certain section. And anyway, so the very last time I was with Karen, that's when she got pregnant. The very last time I ever was actually even with her, and it was on the 4th of July. And 4th of July, and she never could get pregnant before. All of a sudden, she got pregnant. The very, very last time I was with her. That's why my son Isaac is like a miracle baby. He's like really a miracle baby. And that might be, your father or your uncle. Well, I mean, because your uncle or your half brother's uncle, like that. I mean, if you're like Brent, Tristan, or Trevor, well, Bryson is your half brother, and it's his uncle because, like, even though there's two different women that I've been with, Karen and Lisa Adrian. Well, that's when Isaac was conceived. Very last time I was ever with Karen, except in court, and as far as I knew, she couldn't even get pregnant. Well, but Merry Christmas, happy 4th of July. Well, that's how Isaac came to be, and I was in Richmond, and she came to see me, Well, that's the story of Isaac's creation. Obviously, he was meant to be. Yeah. And I was meant to be his father. And so I would never... Look, I was offered opportunity not to have to pay child support. All right. His dad, his stepdad, you know, like he already had kids, already adults and everything like that. He was already done having children. In fact, maybe he might even have what you call a vasectomy or something. Maybe he couldn't even have any more kids anyway because he didn't want no more kids. There comes a time, you know, when you're too old to have kids, because if you do, you might be dead. You might be dying when your kids are wanting to be playing. Right? Anyway, I mean, I'm not just, I don't know. But all I know is they never had any kids together. But Isaac had a mom and a dad. You know, John was his stepdad. And I wrote John a letter and told him, look, I understand, you know, that you're Isaac's dad too. I wrote him that letter. And I told him that. I could tell it meant something to him next time I seen him, because his facial reaction and a bodily gesture. Anyway, you know, I wanted to read this book. I'm going to go ahead and do it, because even though it's 31 minutes, me and dog. Hey, it's a childhood book, you know. This is, and I don't know what it says, because I did read it one time, but I don't really remember. I don't know if it's going to relate to anything I've been talking about here, but it might. And if it does, that'll be a pretty cool synchronicity. And I have a lot of synchronicity in my life. Isaac being born was a synchronicity. So his life is actually for a purpose. Everybody's life is for a purpose. I'm just saying, this cannot be denied based on the facts. This is me. My name is Sid. I'm just an ordinary kid. I make mistakes. They're mostly small, except for when they're not. You know, and in that book, Every Beautiful Thing, see, that boy, when his mom first tried to commit suicide, he started writing for his mom Every Beautiful Thing. And, you know, he gave it to her. And he knows that she read it because she corrected the spelling of some of the things that he wrote down. That's how I knew she read it. But it didn't help her not to commit suicide. But he tried. Anyway, that's just a side point. As in that little play, that boy got Every Beautiful Thing. So he says, I make mistakes. They're mostly small, except for when they're not at all. Oh, upside down. That's written upside down. This is hey, he's my pet. This is Murphy. He's my pet. No, he made it, you know, that. Okay. He's the world's best dog, I bet. But just between us, me and you, Murphy's ordinary too. That's him. I always clean my toilet real good every time I use it, because my dogs also lick out of the toilet sometimes. Murphy's pretty smart, but he thinks a bit too much of me. To him, I'm not a short grade schooler. I'm supreme almighty ruler. Super duper boss and king. Of absolutely everything. So yesterday, while getting mail, oops, I stepped on Murphy's tail. He yelped and blinked his big brown eyes and started to apologize. Murphy thinks when things go bad, he must have somehow made me mad. Happy things get understood. It isn't true. The world is large, and I'm a kid. I'm not in charge. I sometimes think there is no boss, that most things happen just because. Murphy, though, does not agree. He sits around and worships me. He thinks that if he begs enough, I will give him lots of stuff. Bits of beef and chunks of cheese, things to chase and things to squeeze, things to honk and things to shove. And things that only dogs could love. It's silly how he prays and pleads, since I give Murphy all he needs. Because he doesn't want me mad, Murphy tries not to be bad. And he isn't, I admit, except for when he is a bit. I wonder if he'd be as good if Murphy ever understood that I'm not the Lord and King. Of absolutely everything. I wonder if he might be fearful or less friendly or less cheerful if he knew I'm not the whiz and maybe even no one is. So let's not tell him I'm just Sid, a very ordinary kid. It seems to work out perfectly. Because I love him and he loves me. Yeah. See, on my storybooks, when I was a kid, they had little pictures all down the side and everything. And my mom used to always tell me what's that one? What's that one? What's that one? And that's how I learned stuff when I was a little kid. Learned the names of the animals and stuff like that. All right, bye.